guys, and welcome back to another video. So today is going to be kind of like another sketchbook session, as I wanted to work in this particular book rather than this one, which you guys are probably more familiar with, this one being my current sketchbook that I'm working in. But this one in particular serves a different purpose, which is a little bit different. So if you guys remember, this is actually one of my very first designs for these blank notebooks that I've been using as sketchbooks. So the reason being I'm bringing back this one is that ever since I've been doing like conventions and tabling every so often, and I bring some of my blank notebooks along with me to sell, I like having like a sample book. So this one has served the purpose of being the sample notebook. So I let people be able to flip through so they can, you know, see the paper, feel the paper, all that stuff, and just get a good kind of feel of what this notebook entails, because it's not like a typical sketchbook. It doesn't have like special paper, so I don't want people to be confused when they buy it, especially because when I usually sell these, they are sealed. But I didn't realize this was going to be like not exactly an issue, but in the past, I've had people ask me like, oh, does like this medium work in the sketchbook, or like, you know, does it work on this type of paper? And even though it would be nice to do some swatches of mediums right here, which I will probably still do, I think it would be nice to have some individual pages done with like specific mediums with more like either doodles or finished illustrations, so that people don't have to keep asking me and I don't have to keep giving my actual current book to people to be able to look through to see if, like, you know, to see if gouache works in it with markers, Fineliners, like all that stuff. So it make a little bit more sense. So today, let's work with alcohol markers and do kind of like a sample page for people to view in this particular book. So I'm gonna go ahead and flip over to the next page. Also, sorry if you guys hear extra noises. I do have a window cracked open just a bit to allow a breeze in because it's getting a little stuffy in this room. I'm using the palette color Eno in the color red as usual, and let's sketch out. I think I want to draw Kaya from Genshin Impact in kind of more like formal attire, so we don't have to go on and do the full outfit for him. So it's gonna be a little bit hard to see just because this pencil is a bit on the lighter side. So I probably am just gonna do like more of a headshot. To do this. I just realized I always forget that sometimes when I'm recording like more horizontal on the desk, I tend to warp the face a lot, so prevent myself from doing that too much. I know this is not the best angle. Please bear with me. Also, I'm glad because I'm in more of like I've been drawing more idol cards, I guess, idol photo cards for like Genshin and Honkai Star Rail. Hopefully I'll have like by the summer. I would like to have a lot of like idol cards for both of those games, but I'm just glad that finally I can find Ensemble Stars music on Spotify, because I think for the longest time I think it was like region locked. The snow has finally melted, which I'm super happy, and we've been getting a little bit more of like rain. And I know a lot of you like live in like more humid countries, or like countries that don't usually have colder months. You get like a lot more warmer months and like monsoon season and all that, humid months. Maybe I will make it his normal outfit. I don't know. That way we can also like not accidentally overlap into this page, because I will put the samples on this side probably so people can see bleed through. Sorry, I love Kaya a lot, but you can't deny that this is a rat tail. Because if I'm doing line work, I need these to be somewhat accurate. Because usually if I'm sketching, I can like fuss as I go. I don't think I've ever drawn Kaya with like alcohol markers. I've definitely done him with gouache and watercolors in the past. But yeah, if you guys want to come along with me to when I do my samples in the sketchbook. Maybe you want like me to go in depth more into like a specific traditional medium, do let me know. That's it for the sketch. Actually, it didn't take me as long. Granted that, you know, this is a simpler sketch. So hopefully you can see the sketch a little bit right here. Super simple, really quick. Took me like 10 minutes-ish maybe. So I do have a dedicated little kind of like sketchbook that I treat more like a scratch pad. This is like a cheaper sketchbook. It's like paperback, a little bit more flimsy, but it has like a lot of pages and kind of more of an off-white color. But in this kind of little sketchbook, I use it as like more of my swatches for everything. So these are for my water-based markers, so I know what they look like. But I use it as like a scratch pad. So this is me testing out some color palettes for my water-based markers. I've also done it with alcohol markers. And then here's more, so I can keep note of like my current color palette and stuff. Let's use the back of this page, I guess. Find an appropriate color for his line work. So looking at our colors, so because I like to take skin tone into consideration the most, I tend to choose a warmer color, and I don't have like too many browns here to choose from, which I think would look most appropriate. I am leaning towards this one, which might be too light in the end, knowing how I will layer my shadows. We could also go, I guess this one maybe. Which are these ones? So let's do a quick comparison. So always test your markers, your alcohol markers with your inking supply on your desired paper. But because I've done alcohol markers on this paper before, I'm not gonna really do that much of those testing. But this one's definitely less warm. So kind of thinking, because I could just go with the lighter one and we can darken up our line work after. So maybe we'll just do that then. It is the Magicfly art Fineliners, and these are dual tipped. So brush tip on one side, fine liner on the other, and this is the side that we are going to be using. I feel like this is like the most nerve-wracking part. I'm also going to place a sheet of paper because I can feel myself getting a little bit more clammy and I don't want to warp the paper too much. But let's get started. I think you guys know like I dislike doing line art a lot, but there's some processes that I feel like benefit from doing line art first. If I don't have to, I'll try my best to add most of the detail with the alcohol markers. I have very shaky hands, or not super shaky hands, like I don't have tremors or anything, because I know some people have that, which makes line art a little bit more of a nightmare. Even though I think that gives it a little bit more character. But sometimes like when I drag my hand in a certain direction, I can see my hand shaking quite a bit. I just find like sketching like a lot less pressure alongside with like coloring. Usually. Traditional art's a little bit different when it comes to coloring. Digital art usually has a little bit more forgiveness. And I mean by a little bit, I mean like a heck of a lot. Because it's been a while since I've drawn him, so I don't remember the pattern of his hair. Also, when we start to like color a little bit more, a lot of these details like in my lines won't really matter anyways, because I'll try to put more depth and detail when I'm actually coloring. Shaky, shaky. Because I keep mentioning convention. I will be at AnimeFon 2024, which is taking place in Edmonton, Alberta, Canada. Which is kind of exciting because it's been a little bit since I've tabled there. I mean a little bit. I think I tabled there in 2022, I think. But my friend's gonna help me table. Hopefully gonna be able to do commissions again. Because that's one thing I love about having an assistant that's like familiar with my stuff. is that I can do commissions while they can handle my sales. Not only that, I am like extremely shy. So having them there to help me do my sales is wonderful. Cause like a part of being shy, like apart from being shy, promoting your own stuff, I don't know why, it feels it's difficult if you're not used to it. Cause I find it easier to gush about like other people's stuff, but I can never really do that for my own stuff. Like it's rare for me to like an artwork of mine like a whole heck of a lot, which is sad, but I feel like that's a lot of artists. If you're doing line work and you're doing it for yourself technically, right? As long as you understand your lines, it doesn't matter. Who cares about aesthetics? So this is before we start to erase the sketch. Okay, so let's take a kneaded eraser and we're just gonna lighten up our sketch, or in this case, I'm gonna try my best to erase as much as I can near the face. I'm gonna put back some details. So luckily, Kaya's skin tone isn't super pale, so some of these are gonna cover up even more, but like places like maybe if I want to leave this white, it's probably best to get rid of my lines here. But his hair is gonna be dark and his jacket will be dark as well, along with the tie, so I don't need to really erase too much in there. But let's go ahead and choose our colors. So we'll leave Kaya on the side. I'll open up my swatch book, and yeah, we can just use this page again. So even though these help a lot, always swatch them either on similar paper or on somewhere else so that you know what the color is gonna look like. I have some down here as well. Eggshell white's actually not bad as a highlight color, so I want to go E. Let's see which one's better. So usually when I record videos with the alcohol marker portion, I actually choose all my colors prior, because this takes way too long. I want a purple as well. Okay, 160. A transitioning color might help actually. So this is kind of how I have them sorted. So this is our main colors for his skin. So this is my highlight color. I have two mid-tones, so these are actually very similar in value, just one's a little bit more warmer, and then I have my darker one, and I have these plus any of the blues, some of these purples from his eyes that I can use to make the shadows a little bit more deeper and on the cooler side. The book, and just do quick swatches before I lay them down on my sketchbook. Okay, so to set up, let's place down this little sheet. It's because this is thinner paper. Let's put this underneath right here. You can see that there's a little ghosting here, because this paper is definitely thin. Clip it. And I'm probably gonna put like a little sticky note or something that shows what medium I used for these, like alcohol markers and water-based marker for the line art. So hopefully his skin tone won't look too off, because I feel like this might be too dark as my base tone. It is a little yellowy. But with context, it will look a little bit better probably. This is a lot more yellowier compared to what I was kind of expecting, I feel like. So just to show you guys a quick comparison on what it looks like on here versus on this paper. So vastly different, but then on the swatch itself, so this is E220. E220, so it's like similar, but this is still lighter. So it really depends on your paper type. So I might have picked something a little bit too dark. Try my best to use this lighter color to blend out some of the areas. Yeah, I might actually just use this for now, because I'm getting a little bit nervous. Because maybe I'll find another color for the highlight, because I don't want to accidentally transition the hair too weirdly. Makes it a little bit easier to transition. I'm also flicking my marker up into the hairline right here because I want some of that skin tone to bleed into the hair. It's just like a personal preference. You don't have to do it, but I like doing it because I feel like it makes the area around the face look a little bit softer. I think that's good as a base. I think this is our first initial shadow color that I'm gonna use. See, it doesn't really show up all that much. It's a good thing I did on the lip. Maybe I'll just leave the highlight color as white. Because one thing is that I can't really gauge at this point unless I add in all the base colors at the same time, is that the surrounding colors, because like I said, Kaya has darker hair, that make the skin look very pale. So I might have to reapply either the shadows or go over another pass of the base color. But we're just gonna play around and see what works. Because for the most part, like even though I have things that I like to do, a lot of it is kind of like F around and find out. Trial and error is probably a nicer way of putting it. But you can layer up your alcohol markers. So I'm using kind of like a reddish purple to kind of change the color of our shadow here to be a little bit more of a deeper, warmer color. But if you're not confident, well, I'm not either. But if you're not confident with your color mixing or anything like that, it's good to do tests like on a different sheet of paper before you commit. And you always want to be careful if you're adding lighter colors back into darker colors. Sometimes they layer up nicely and they give it a little bit more of like a subtle color. But other times, if it's too light, it becomes like a weird blooming effect sometimes. You can't really see it super closely. Let me see if I can take a photo so you guys can see it. Because it leaves almost like a weird ring. So I'll put that on the screen if I have it. I feel like I made it a little too wide. That's okay. We can also buff it out slightly. Because I kind of wanted his nose to be a little bit on the sharper side. But you know, it's okay. So I could try fussing with it. I feel like it won't end very well. Yeah, I might add another pass to kind of smooth this out. Sometimes as it dries, it gets a little bit lighter, but sometimes it just stays at this intensity. So I don't want it to appear too splotchy, but kind of get into that territory here. So I want to be careful and leave a gap where I think the highlight will be. So did I grab a super light pink? I'm gonna layer that at the top. But you can see I have to be careful because I'm already losing the highlight because it does, the alcohol markers itself feathers a little bit. So while I wait for that to dry, let's plan out our highlights for his hair. This might look a little too dark, but should be fine. Because we're going to do a lot of layering to kind of fix up his hair even more. Okay, so for his skin tone here, I am going to try to use this yellowy green color first. Flick into that already skin tone that I already have. And to be honest, when I'm doing this, I don't even know if this is going to work properly, so it might take a lot more blending. So that we have a color to kind of transition into. So So I like to start like on a smaller section of hair, see how I like it, and then we can proceed further. So another way is like you could start off with your base, leave some ends like this, and then take your lighter colors to blend it. I think that's a smarter way if you want to conserve a lot more ink. But because I'm a chicken, I do a lot more testing like this by setting up a base way earlier. Hopefully that makes sense. Because I got a lot more comments about people asking about alcohol markers and stuff on a lot of my other older videos for some reason that are recently picking up newer viewership, I think. Because of that, I wanted to do something with a little bit more real time so that people can kind of see how I'm blending things. Actually, I might add a larger band for a highlight color. But this is taking a lot more layering that I would usually use, probably. But Kaya's hair is a little bit confusing for me in terms of the color. So you can see that like you can literally drag down the color a little bit more if you really wanted to. So you don't really have to do it the way how I did it, where you go light to dark. You can definitely start with like your mid-tone, blend it out with your light, and add like dark afterwards. Place our darker colors, which helps to make everything look a little bit more clean. So I'm gonna try my best to be a little bit more precise with this pass. So I don't know if you can tell, I'm trying to use like majority of like just the tip of the brush rather than pressing down completely, so that we can utilize just the smaller portion of the brush. I always like adding like the darker color right under the highlight. It just makes the highlight pop like a lot more. But I'm excited to design some idol outfits for, I don't know what to call them, because technically they used to be called dicks, because it'll be D-Luke, Ito, Child, Kaya, and then Zhongli. But now there's like other taller males. Like we have Al Haytham, we have Ayato, we have Kaveh. Oh, but they're an aggravate, so maybe I wouldn't put them. But I might put Ayato, so I don't know what to call them. Actually, I might fill this in all the way. It's looking a little bit better. So I'm going to do another pass of the darker color. So I think I've used... How many colors that I've used? 5? I think this is the 5th color. So you can see how many colors I use just to layer for the hair alone. So yeah, so that's kind of what his hair is gonna look like. Add a little bit more. But like as I get more and more higher in the amount of layers, I try my best to be as clean as possible because I'm not going to be blending out as much. Okay, let's work on his eye, because I feel like his eye is the wrong color, and I think it's because the pink's throwing me off. Color, which I think is like a bluish, you can add purple or blue, but because I have purple as the base, this doesn't look too off. So for his eye, he does have like the little diamond. To add a color to kind of transition it a little bit. So another thing that I can do with the alcohol markers is that in the eye line, if we add a little bit in there. We can kind of like transition the color slightly as well. So then the gold, which I think I covered too much for the skin tone that I used. So let's try our best to make this stand out on its own. Like this. Because now you can see the skin tone looks a little bit on the lighter side. Like it almost looks like his hair is floating outwards. So I kind of want to add a kind of like a blue to it. B350. I feel like I have that color out. But I feel like I want it to be lighter though. So maybe we'll use something else. Because sometimes this doesn't really work. Sometimes it does. Okay. So I'm gonna try to blend it out a little bit more with that purple color that I used initially. So I want to add some kind of like warmer tone because I do like adding a little bit of like something a little bit more reddish. Okay, we can probably add this to kind of like the bridge of the nose, just like above the bridge. Okay, let me quickly do his, like the collar portion. Kind of like a blue-gray right here. You can also use a yellow suntanish color. And I want something super light. Because I don't mind if this side's a little bit darker, and like I said, if I add some colors that are darker alongside with it, it'll appear a little bit lighter in the end anyways, so I'm not too worried. Adding a little bit of that, like a different color to make it a little bit warmer. Okay, so I forgot this is also white, so let's go ahead and transition this a little bit. It almost feels like rainbowish color scheme here, which I think looks kind of pretty. So while we let those dry, I will continue with his hair. So let's choose, I think one of the darker colors to start off. Blur these out. So that's much more simple. I don't really need to fuss with it too much because I don't really care. I care too much about like the hair around the face usually. But let's do his tie. So I feel like you don't need to match your tie to your suit jacket, but I think I will. Maybe our lightest. We could go like that. Might be the easiest. So I'm gonna take our, technically our mid-tone. Maybe I'll put the I don't know. Maybe I won't put swatches. So we can just leave this as empty. Some people like to work quickly so that you can make sure that the ink is still wet when you blend. I definitely think it's easier, but it's definitely not necessary. But I definitely think it uses more ink if you wait a lot longer. It's a little less like suit. It seems like more like a something being draped. I feel like on camera it makes it a lot more easier to see how kind of blotchy it looks, but in person it actually doesn't look too bad. Obviously some people work differently with markers, because if you do more of like a cell shaded look, you definitely want to go probably light to dark to keep all your colors clean, because otherwise if you add like lighter colors on top, you're bleeding it. That's what happens when you choose the wrong color. But sometimes like leaving it more like less blended, I guess, sometimes reads a little bit better. Looks like a lot better. So use the lighter blue. So sometimes for highlights I just leave the white of the page for it. Sometimes it reads a little bit better. Yeah, maybe I'll try to fill this out since we don't need for swatches. Because we could do it like a faded pink. Or even like, would this color work? Will I regret? I feel like it might be okay. I don't know how I got marker on myself. One second. I want to darken these a little bit more. I really can't find it. Where? Maybe I'll just use RV270? I feel like it's too dark. Wait. Let's use this color as the background. I'm just gonna shade it in really quick. We'll just go as straight as we can. Okay, so I think that's how we're gonna do it. I know this side looks a little bit less dark, but it'll even out afterwards. Okay, so I think that's it for Kaya. I'll definitely put like some kind of sticky note or something on the side so that people know that this is alcohol markers, even though it might be a little bit more obvious. But let me put everything away. I think you guys might be able to see. This is what happens with the aftermath. Whoa. It's kind of the aftermath of having markers all right here. So one more thing I forgot. So because some of these lines get a little bit lost and I kind of want a little bit more contrast, I chose a dark blue, and we'll see if we can spruce this up a little bit. Because sometimes when I do line art, I do want them to still stand out to some extent. Because I put all the effort to make the line art, why make it disappear? A little bit darker. You can also outline a little bit of the highlight. Kind of works. Than any other place, it just needs a little bit more of a push. Just a bit, if anything. So you can see that they appear a lot darker and it kind of makes everything stand out a little bit more easier. So I'm gonna do the rest off camera because there's a wire that's like in the way of this pen because the camera is so close. So here's kind of the finished look at Kaya. So see, these are some of the areas that I decided to darken up. So like near his collar, anywhere near his face that needed some more oomph for it to show up a little bit better. So that's kind of Kaya finished. We can remove our little sheet right here. You can see that if I didn't put it, you can see how much residue actually bled through from me doing the darker areas for Kaya. I'm gonna clean this up with some alcohol, like rubbing alcohol, so I can clean it up much more easier. But, so this is kind of our finished sample for Kaya. Back here is kind of almost a one-to-one with the amount of bleed through. So that's kind of the process I go through when I'm working with alcohol markers. Now, if I end up putting some footage of me working on maybe some smaller Genshin looking, no, smaller cards where I do like alcohol markers and stuff, then I'll add that footage here. But if not, I think this is the end of the video. Hopefully you guys liked watching me kind of do the alcohol marker process a little bit more in real time with some talking and me trying to figure out what I'm trying to do. But yeah, I think that's it for today, and I'll talk to you guys next time in the next video. Bye!